Okay, I want to go over how to do the sine regression, how to find the equation using your calculator. So I'm doing number 64 in the book. You can see I'm on page 163, and I'm going to do number 64 here. So that wants to plot the data over a 2-year period. So in other words, make a graph. Use a sine regression term in the model for the 2-year interval. Let x equal 1 represent January of the year. So in other words, so January of the first year is x equals 1. January of the second year will be 13, and so on. The idea is you keep going out as you go farther from your starting point. Now, when I do this, and I'm not even going to, we can do C, but I'm not going to worry about C too much here. You can plug it in. That was the other video. So now first, to plot the data, you want to use the stat function right here. And so I'm going to click on stat, and you're going to want edit, and this edit first. And it's going to bring up all your lists. And you can see here, I've put in the data. There's one for January, and then there's the average high temperature, 86.7 for Argentina. And as you do this down, now it said over a 2-year period, so all you did in this thing, all they want you to do is repeat the exact same data. So starting at year 13, I just started over again. If you actually had 2 years of data, that would be, of course, better. But if they only give you one, then they just, when they say 2-year, they mean simply repeat it. You want that whole set. So you're just really making a set of 2. So you can see those are my 24 data points. I didn't make you clear them in. The other thing you do need to know from here is if you do need to clear a list, that's 4. You can clear the whole list. So like if I want to clear a list, and I'm not going to clear one of those lists because that would be evil right now. And then you go to second stat for the list, and then you pick the one you want. So like list 4, which has nothing on it. And then it'll just tell you done. And then that list would be gone. Okay, now to plot it, you're going to go up to this y, but you want second. Above it, it says stat plot. So you want second y equals, and it gives you the stat plots. Okay, and so here I'm going to click on 1. I'm going to turn it on. As a note, you need to turn it off when you're done with it, or your regular graphing won't function. So it's kind of either or. You're either plotting with the stat flunks or you're graphing regular things. So make sure you do that. And if you come back here, I'm going to click back here for a minute. You'll see this very bottom one is plots on and off. That's a really useful little tool when it's not working. Okay, I'm going to leave the type as is, and then here is I'm using list 1 and list 2, but if these were wrong, you'd go to second list, you'd find the one you want, and that's how you get the list 1 and list 2 in there. And then it doesn't matter what this is, you can use whatever you want. And then I'm going to click graph. Oh, hold on a second, I have my other graph on here, and it's not going to come up, so I'm going to clear this. Okay. So now, when I first graph this, I'm going to see nothing, okay? You need to go to zoom, and you need to go down to zoom stat, this number 9, and then click enter, and then you will get it. You will not get it if you don't switch that zoom stat. As a note, you need to switch back when you go back to other graphing, or your other graphs won't thing them. So definitely, as you use them, you need to remember, just like radians and degrees, to switch back and forth. But there's our 2-year plot. So we can see here's January, and then all the way down, you can see as it gets through, like, you know, July was the coldest month, so that's down here. And then we swing back up and we repeat. Now, so that's part A and part C, really, because in part C, we're just going to repeat the process. We're just going to put an equation we get from B, and they should be very close. They won't be exactly. Real data never is exact, but it'll give you a good estimation. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to I'm going to quit second mode, quit out of here, okay? And I'm going to go back to my stat menu, but now I want to go over to Calc, okay? So edit allows me to change the list and add them up. I want to go to Calc, and I want to go all the way down the bottom. So if I hit this up arrow, it takes me to the bottom, okay? You can also, of course, just, you know, page down them. I want this one, Sine regression, okay? So see this bottom one. You might have some other ones in here. I know my other TI has another one below it, but these are the major ones. I want sine regression. And then, now on the newer models, it will bring up a screen and you'll fill in stuff. But on the older models, you're simply going to put in the ones you want. So list 1, comma, second stat to get my list 2, okay? You can also put in iterations. So I could do, I'm going to go back up here. I want 3 iterations. So in other words, try it 3 times, you know, kind of see which one works the best. And a lot of times most computers usually will do 2 or 3 just automatically. and then line 1. Now, if you have a newer model, it's going to have you kind of just fill in the blanks, and then this is going to come up automatically, and then push enter, and it's going to think about it for a minute while it does its little iterations. You don't actually need that 3 in front. It's just if you want it to do more than 1, you'll need to tell it. Otherwise, it'll just give you. This then is our equation. So you can see it's going to be 12.95 times sine, and then in parentheses, this 0.52x plus 1.04. Then the n, the vertical translation is 72.5, which makes sense because, of course, we're all in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, so obviously it's going to have moved up. So that's your equation, and you can see they give you the equation and then what each variable means so that you can then just plug them in, and that gives you your equation. And if you turned around and graphed this, plug that in as written, it should match fairly closely the original data you graphed. And the idea being that, okay, then I can predict what it will look like for January of next year because it should be on a cyclical pattern. We know that's not perfect, but it gives us a good data. And the more data you have, the better it can adjust for that. So hopefully this helps you set up these sine things. Again, make sure if you have a newer model, it's going to look a little bit different when it comes up, but the same buttons all work.